Hello, everyone, and welcome to the White Rabbit Podcast. My name is Matt Kraus, coming to you from Bandırma, Turkey. And my co-host, Albayrak Rosanes, is coming to you from Barcelona, Spain. And our guest today is Taner Albayrak. Taner is a senior lecturer at Piri Reis University, a maritime university in Istanbul. But more than that, he modestly let slip in conversation that he is also a co-founder of that same university. So Taner, say hi, a quick hi to our listeners, and then I will tell them some more intro stuff.
Okay. Hello, everyone. And Matt and Alper, thank you very much for hosting me in your
Welcome.
podcast. This will be a great opportunity for me to address your distinguished audience. Thanks.
Our pleasure. It's great to have you with us. And I met Taner at a luncheon a few weeks back, and we hit it off initially when Taner mentioned that he had co-authored some books on presentation skills and that he actively taught his students about the importance of developing those skills in their own careers. So I read some of his books afterwards, and they offered up great case studies on how presentation and communication skills on board a commercial ship were affecting the bottom line of the shipping company, thus making a great crossover from the world of soft skills, which the world often puts into the nice to have but optional category, and instead taking those soft skills and crossing them over into the world of very measurable financial impact. And when I saw that, I thought, we got to get this guy on the podcast. And so here we are. Okay, so Taner, so help me finish up this intro. Is there anything that you would like our listeners to know that I have not mentioned?
Just a few things I may add. As you mentioned, soft skills are generally considered as nice to have but optional skills. Indeed, soft skills have a direct and often underestimated impact on safety, especially in high-risk environments like shipping and also aviation, healthcare, and engineering, and many industries.
Yeah.
So, in fact, many safety failures are not caused by a lack of technical knowledge, but by breakdowns in communication, coordination, and decision making. In regards to your words that you mentioned, you'll be talking about communication skills on board a commercial ship affecting the bottom line of the shipping companies. I would like to say a few things in these regards because some of the audience may disappear, those who are not interested in maritime, why we are going to listen maritime things here.
Sure.
So, because maritime topics may feel niche, but underlying dynamics are universal. So if you present them correctly, they become highly relevant, even to people who have never seen a ship in their lives. So from this aspect, they shouldn't worry about that they are in the right place. We will be talking about on your core issues.
Excellent.
Besides, the maritime industry is the most international of all industries, as your main audience, as far as I know, the international business community. So the maritime can be taken as a reference in all in the international industry, international businesses. Besides, maritime has always been as the oldest profession in the world, leading the technology, economy, and social sciences. And our planet is covered by water. 71% of the Earth is water, oceans. It's
Sure.
called blue planet for this reason.
Oh,
And half of the population nearly lives around the seas, oceans, almost 100 kilometers from the coastline. And 90% of world trade is carried by sea.
yeah,
So
good point.
just for this reason, anything about the maritime has direct influence on everyone living in the Earth. And from my side, I'm a retired Navy captain and ocean-going unlimited master mariner. But besides that, in my background, I have a bachelor's degree on international relations, uh, two master's degrees on political sciences and business administration. My PhD is maritime economics and policies, and I'm affiliated at business strategies. Also, I'm an executive coach and mentoring. So I am also in the business world, and maritime is just providing me a background to reflect my experiences, translate them into the uh, business, international business environment, which I'm teaching other faculties as well, besides maritime. So I think I will be helpful, at least not boring to your target audience.
And Taner, before I forget, tell our listeners if they want to get in touch with you after the podcast. So where can they find you?
They can find me at Piri University, either physically or through the web page. And to make them remember easily, Piri is a famous Ottoman admiral who lived in 16th century. And he is very famous because of the first world map he produced. Actually, it's a pilot book of navigation, and it is recognized by UNESCO as the World Cultural Heritage. So in 1513, he charted this piloting book and about the world, and it is almost very close to the today's geography. So his well-known name will be easy to remember. And I'm staff of Faculty of Economics and Administrative Sciences at the Maritime Business Management Department. So they can find my CV, contact details, everything, and my books, other references. And they
Okay.
can come to visit me anytime if they wish.
Excellent. But
Well, yeah,
before we go on, let me interrupt you for a second. Let's go
yeah,
back to
please.
something that you mentioned a few moments ago. You mentioned that you were training your students in these skills, and that a lot of shipping companies are asking for or wanting people to have these kinds of communication skills. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And so let's talk about the fear of public speaking for a second. You know, whether it's speaking at a conference or speaking up in class or speaking up at a meeting or whatever, public speaking in any form. And so often, people let their fear get the better of them, and they end up stagnating in their careers because of it. So on this podcast, we've talked a lot about fear and overcoming and stuff like that. So we don't want to go back and rehash that. So instead, let's look ahead and the benefits of getting over that fear, and what are the benefits of getting over the fear doing the public speaking anyway. So Tanir, imagine that one of your students says, yeah, this public speaking thing, it's a nice idea, but I'm afraid. It makes me nervous. So can't I just concentrate on developing my hard skills a little bit more? Talk to us a little bit about some of the benefits that you see in your students when they get over this fear. What happens to their careers and how does it help the industry? Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a good question, which I hear that sentiment a lot. They say that, can't I just get really, really good at my technical skills and let that speak for itself?
Sure.
This I hear in every task I give to the students. In reality, based on what I have seen with students over time, is that the technical excellence is necessary. First of all, as I told you, especially in maritime training for the ship officers. Now I am teaching at the maritime business side, so I'm more flexible there, so I can insert any issue. But on the ship competency level education, it's not easy. So the technical still coming forward, but the business management part, I'm now concentrated more on soft skills, which here the soft skills basically we can just focus it on communications, but in a general context. So it is not sufficient technical skills to manage a ship. We can work on the ship, but to manage the ship management, which are dealing with lots of nationalities, lots of people, like we have to talk to Chinese broker agree on a contract with everybody speaks English. The lingua franca of maritime is English, but still everybody speaks English in a different way, different context. So the soft skills, that's why is so important. And this fair, as to my experience, the fair is not speaking itself. It is if they're not ready to the topic, if they are not well prepared. For a
Okay.
person who is well prepared, I don't think a speaking should be a matter of any fear. Fear of speaking, you see cascade of changes, not
Mhm.
just in confidence, but in their full career trajectory once they start speaking.
Okay.
When they start speaking in a meeting, a classroom, or conferences, they stop being invisible contributors and become
Mm,
recognized voices. So
interesting.
their ideas are heard and remembered. They're invited into more strategic conversations and they're considered for leadership roles. So
Nice.
those people who doesn't speak in the classroom, I am a Maritime Vision Club, which I'm supervising. They come to talk to me. They come with presentations, ideas, innovative visions, and they look something different. They are gradually become leaders of the proficiency and they are bringing new ideas. Actually, it is not the innovation the industry is lacking of. It is the
Okay.
people who are speaking up.
Ah, interesting.
So once,
That's
yes,
interesting. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that's what we got from the industry. So there are lots of skills to be considered, and assertiveness and speaking up, being a communicative one, is more important. And the main reason of this fear is not to have enough uh, either technical background, they're either shy or they think they are quite below the expected technology uh, qualifications. So that's one of the main reasons they don't speak to.
And so you are at a university. So the average age of your students, tell me, are we talking like undergraduates where it might be
Yeah,
21 years old, or are we talking about
yeah,
graduate
yeah.
students, undergraduates? Okay.
Undergraduates, but also I am teaching at master's and PhD level. So I
Okay.
even have student who's working at the industry from age of 50 years, something like that.
So
They
when
have
you,
the same
no
fear.
way.
But
So
unless, no, he's one of them is coming from major industry and even a telecommunication company.
really?
But the thing he is not speaking that he is not well prepared to the topic. Otherwise, he's been in a managerial positions and in a telecommunication company, he has managed teams. So there is no problem in his speaking skills, let me say. But if he is not prepared, he is hiding behind the class.
So, and Taner, in a moment, I'm going to throw the questions over to Alper because I don't want to hog all the questions. So, but before I throw that over to Alper, I just wanted to follow up, Taner, on this 50-year-old student that you mentioned. So, you've got some PhD students, and they are mid-career. Like this example that you mentioned, they're 50 years old. So they're mid-career. They've been around for a while. When you unlock these skills in them and give them some training on public speaking or speaking up in meetings or whatever. If you follow up with them 5 or 10 years later, what do you tend to see in them?
Huge growth.
Have their lives changed?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, the reason they come to advanced education at PhD level just because of this. And actually, the main problem with my courses,
Okay.
they are not expert. They're not coming from business administration, management background. They're either engineers, so they want to develop their managerial skills, which they know they're lacking of these skills.
Interesting.
So that's why the first place they are hesitating how to approach the topic. But afterwards, when they can combine their technical skills with the managerial skills, they become confident and innovative afterwards.
Wow. Interesting. Okay.
But still,
So,
I know in many parts of the world as well, we are discussing, exchanging ideas. The main thing is for the PhD students, especially to finding an innovative approach or the problem statement
Huh. Yeah.
because everything is going very fast. And in the meantime, people do not have time to think over the problems and develop a problem solving approaches.
Okay. And so let me throw it over to you, Alper. So do you have questions for Taner at this point?
I do, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So go for it, Alper.
First of all, Tanner, you have a very large and respectable military service. My military service was limited to 5 months and 5 days,
Okay.
which was mostly about counting the days remaining. So, and it was more than 20 years ago. But this moment, I still have difficulty. Should I call you sir? Should I call you officer?
Now, just Tanner, please. I'm also telling
So-
my students just yes.
So
Our
it's
Turkish
like,
students hesitate to call me name, but I have foreign students as well. They easily call
Yeah.
me that way. So
yeah. And I wasn't expecting that. I was not expecting to have, hang on a second, how should I refer? But apart from that, you were the commanding officer on a frigate, right?
yes,
I assume that's probably as intense as communication can get. And I was wondering if for us, simple civilians, were there about any misconceptions on how communication works in the military, or not only in the military, but also on a ship in the middle of the water? I'm just curious about that. And by the way, I also want to have a follow-up, which you may want to incorporate. You mentioned speaking up a couple of minutes ago, and I'm very curious, how did the whole speaking up thing go in the Navy? Were they able to practice that?
well, first of all, we have to maybe mention the difference between communication and communications, because actually the communication between humans is not different than the radio communications. That the main thing at sea, as you mentioned from the ship wise, and actually when Matt asked me to say hello everyone, it was like the radio checks we do every morning. First of all, we should be assuring each other that we are heard loud and clear by doing these radio checks. And as also in radio communications, there is someone encoding a system encoding the message. The message transmitted in the air with lots of distortions, propagation conditions, and then decoded on the other side. Same for the human communication, that you encode it in the air, it gets distorted either electronically or with some things distracting me, and I may miss the question or the message. And also I decode it in a different way with my culture. So the cultural background is very important. That's why even in your national ship, which the commercial ships are more multinational. I mean, you deal with maybe sometimes 13, 15 different nationalities in a single ship, which is very small, bounded area. And also in your ships, you have different people from PhD level to basic sailors with very low level of education. So these people have to live in the same place. In my ship, I had some 350 crew members, officers, rating petty officers. So having them in that very limited place, months, sailing at sea, sometimes without a port visit. And also in one of our cases, like taking place, it happens also in the merchant ships, repatriation. Just in the middle of the ocean, someone may lose their parents. Their children may go to hospital in a serious way. You cannot keep those people without having good leadership and communication skills. You cannot repatriate them. You cannot send them anywhere. I had experienced some medical cases which I couldn't send them ashore. So the most difficult part is here to deal with these people and having an empathy, emotional intelligence is one of the most important soft skills to overcome these issues. Otherwise, life at sea is always enjoyable unless you have problems, but this problems is against taking the measures in advance.
Well, I'll have a follow-up on that as well, because what you mentioned was pretty interesting. You had people from all over the world, different nationalities, different cultures, And I also read on your profile that apart from your life on the ship, you also have NATO, UN peacekeeping, embassy experience
Mhm.
as attaché. So I think I would be right to assume that your path crossed thousands of people from different backgrounds and cultures, and most of these people had the job to operate as one unit. And I'm assuming that it was business. It wasn't business as usual like it is for us. Maybe it was business under pressure. In your experience, were you able to spot a communication principle, let's say, that you see valid across all these cultures, all these nations, all these people coming from different walks of life?
Yeah, that's all different. I mean, it's all interpretation of your communications, how you encode and how they decode this. So the cultural awareness, I believe, is the most important thing in all business areas. We have to be emotionally aware of their cultures because we don't want to erase the cultures. We cannot erase the cultures, but we have to live with them. And in this world, which is VUCA world, the volatile, unknown, complex, and ambiguous, we need diversity. We need diverse people from different backgrounds, bringing different solutions or interpreting the problems in a different way. So we need this, and we have to live with that. But we have to live it very carefully, without breaking their hearts, without. It happened. One example that if I address someone like my subordinate with his or her name, some people likes that. If I don't address like that, Mr., Mrs., or whatever, they may get offended because I'm putting a distance. But some of them, if I don't respect, they take it as a kind of respect. And if I don't address by Mr., Mrs., then they get offended. One of the issues I researched and made projects is the women in maritime. The harassment is one of the main issues in the maritime because increasing number of female officers are coming to the service, and they all take it in a different way. How you approach, how you talk to them, and it is really a big problem to be solved for a captain on board the ship who has the ultimate responsibility by all means.
I understand. An expression that you used caught my attention, the emotional awareness, but I'm going to give the floor to Matt, and if we have time, I'll come up with a follow-up question on that.
Like,
I just have one question at this point, and that is that Taner, you mentioned the proliferation of of cultures, and that on any given ship, especially a commercial vessel, you'll have a lot of what was the number you said, 10 to 15 different cultures represented. Was that
well,
the
it
number
is
you
in a
used?
single ship, but then if you look at the company, insurance, lawyers, courts, respective, it goes through more than UN.
Yeah, and I in your case studies, you mentioned a phrase. You said, I think, multicultural prejudices should also be forgotten on board. I think that was the phrase that you used in
Yeah.
in the writing. And I was wondering, how do you square that, or how do you resolve the difference between these two statements? Pay attention to multicultural differences, and then you're talking about forgetting them on board. So could you tell us more about that and what you meant by that and why you said it and stuff like that?
Okay, so that sentence has reached its aim because it was a provocative sentence to draw attention,
Oh,
and because it is entirely against the contemporary language of celebrating differences, which I was also mentioning. So
sure,
the
sure.
key understanding to that was here. First of all, we have to separate this into three sections. In that sentence, there are three different focuses. One is the meaning of prejudice. The other is context of on board, what do we mean by on board, and the raising identity and suspending bias. That's balancing how we can do that one. So forgetting prejudices doesn't mean erasing cultures. Praising, as you know, prejudice, as you know, is a prejudgment, a
Yeah.
Assumptions, stereotypes, or expectations applied to people. Before we actually encounter them as individuals. Multicultural prejudice include ideas like people from culture X behaves like this, people from culture Y can't be trusted, people from planet Mars are not reliable, but the Jupiterians are more. So this is what
but
we
everybody
do.
knows
We do
that.
this.
Everybody
Yes.
knows that. Come on.
So this is how we do that. And then it disrupts everything. So forgetting prejudices does not mean forgetting languages, traditions, histories, lived experiences, or cultural identities. They are there, and we have to live with them. We have to respect them, but we have to set aside ourselves and do not stereotype those people. And we have to look at them as individuals. That's what I mean by forgetting the prejudice, forgetting the multicultural specific things to people, but looking at them as persons.
Okay.
In my leadership courses, I start with a cartoon. It's a bear. On the phone, the bear is laying in the bed, and the boss is calling, yelling at the phone, "Hey, bear, you are not coming to work 6 months. What will I do? You're fired." The answer is that. But I wrote my CV, I am a bear, which means he had to hibernate for 6 months. So we don't even read CVs. I mean, most of the managers, even we do not read the CVs. We should start, and it is not enough, definitely. So we should know people, talking to them, what is their family status, children, wife. You know, Americans always mention the old American story, wife problem, car problem. So the manager should be prepared for this, if there will be a wife problem with that person or not.
Okay. And before we wrap up, Alper, you mentioned that you had a remaining question. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
By the way, I hope I didn't piss off any Martians. I hope they won't come after me after this summer.
Don't worry, Alper. I think the number of Martians listening to this podcast is probably fairly low.
Probably.
You never be sure.
Yeah. Then I want to ask a follow-up question on the emotional awareness that you had mentioned. I was wondering, because I'm a person with spatial problems, not special problems. I like to call it spatial problems, as in I need my space. When I don't have my space, I become pretty nasty. And you're talking about what you said, 350 people on a ship, right?
Yes.
So we are talking about it's a very tight-knit community. Let's put it that way. I was wondering, when you put so many people into such a small place, do you have any anecdotes on encounters where you saw from a distance that all these people needed was some emotional awareness, maybe during a conflict, and you had to intervene? Do you have any stories like that, or any anecdotes like that?
Many of them, I don't know how I can bring the best one, but every day you live with those, many of them. From the cultural wise, let me say, like my steward was coming from a village, and it is a sort of being a commanding officer, steward, a family tradition. But I didn't want to have a private steward, so I said that go to the officer mess, wait there, and when I need, someone can look at. There are 5 stewards for the officers. But he was very much offended with this one. He think that I didn't want him, I didn't like him. And a few days later, he came crying because his father was asking how he's going with the commanding officer, and he said, no, he doesn't want me. And then his father called me, what's wrong with my son? So look at how the things are complicated. And I don't know if I mentioned, Matt, the reason we are living around here, and occasionally they have olive groves here. They're producing olive oil. And every year, the biggest problem is to find people to collect olives in harvest time. And my wife is very sensitive on this. By the way, I managed some 10,000 people at a time, but here I cannot manage 5 villagers who are collecting. It is different profession. So this was the missing link. So I'm now learning that part. And here the tradition, the man is paid more than women.
Uh-huh.
The women are wives or daughters, whatever. And men mostly sleep under the trees and women do the work. My wife is a women entrepreneur. She was against this and she said, no, I will pay the same to everyone. Women
Even to the
came
men who
to
sleep
her,
under the tree.
but women came and objected this.
No way.
At
Wow.
home, we will have a problem. You must
Really?
pay them more than us. Even we do the
No
work,
way.
but he's a man and you have to pay more. So the culture is
Wow.
very important to understand this. So we couldn't insist that we will pay more to women or at least equal payment. And at the ship, I had to accept we stay in my cabin. There was a place and just coaching, supervising me every time.
Wow. So we've got to wrap up for today, but before we wrap up, so Albayrak, did you have anything else that you wanted to cover with Taner before we wrap up?
So many things, but maybe for a future episode because I don't want to hog all the time.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Taner. And we wish you a happy holiday. And for those of you who are not in the Muslim world, by that I am referring to the Feast of the Sacrifice holiday, of which there are, what is it, Taner? Is it 3.5 or 4.5 days or something like that?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, we're on day 3.5 of that holiday. So that's what I'm referring to when I wish Taner a happy holiday. So thank you, Taner, for joining us. And
thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
The pleasure is ours. It's been great having you with us. So thank you for joining us today, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.